The line stretched around the block, a river of eager faces clutching hardcovers of Empire of Ambition, the memoir of billionaire Ethan Caldwell. The Chicago bookstore buzzed with anticipation, fans whispering about his meteoric rise from a small-town coder to the helm of Nexus Corp, a tech giant reshaping the world. At the front of the line, Ethan sat at a polished table, his tailored suit crisp, his smile practiced but distant. He signed books with mechanical precision, nodding at gushing praise while his mind wandered to the next board meeting. Near the back of the line, a girl stood out, not for her presence, but her absence of pretense. Sophie, 9 years old, wore a faded blue coat 2 sizes too big, her sneakers scuffed and fraying at the edges. Her dark curls framed wide, hopeful eyes that held a quiet strength. In her hands, she clutched a tattered copy of Ethan's book, its cover creased from countless readings. Beside her, a worn backpack slumped against her legs, stuffed with a water bottle, a library card, and a small notebook filled with her dreams. Sophie wasn't here for an autograph. She was here for something bigger. Next, the bookstore manager called, ushering Sophie forward. Ethan barely looked up as she approached, his pen already poised. "Who should I make it out to?" he asked, voice smooth but detached. It's for me, Sophie," she said softly, her voice trembling but clear. She slid the book across the table, her small hands steady. "But I have a question first." Ethan's smile flickered, a hint of impatience creeping in. The line was long, and the event was already running over. "Sure, kid, what's up?" Sophie took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto his. "Sir, you forgot to put Mommy in your book." The room seemed to pause. Heads turned, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Ethan's pen froze mid-signature, his brow furrowing. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your book," Sophie said, her voice gaining strength. "You wrote about how you built your company, how you worked hard and never gave up. But you didn't write about Mommy. She helped you, didn't she? She was kind to you when you were starting out." Ethan blinked, his polished demeanor cracking. "Kid, I don't know what you're talking about. My mom passed away when I was young. There's no Mommy in my story." Sophie shook her head, undeterred. "Not your mommy. Mine. Her name was Lila. Lila Harper." The name hit Ethan like a jolt. Lila Harper. A name he hadn't thought of in decades, buried beneath layers of success and ambition. His mind flashed back to a freezing winter in his early 20s, when he was just a scrappy coder with a laptop and a dream, living out of a beat-up van in Seattle. Lila had been the diner waitress who slipped him extra coffee, who let him sit for hours in the warmth of her section, scribbling code on napkins. She'd listened to his wild ideas about revolutionizing tech, never once laughing at his oversized dreams. She'd even given him her tip money one night, 10 crumpled dollars, when he couldn't afford a burger. How do you know about Lila?" Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper, his hands trembling as he set the pen down. "She was my mom," Sophie said, her eyes glistening but her chin held high. "She died last year. Cancer. Before she passed, she told me about you. She said she met a guy named Ethan who was going to change the world. She said she gave you her tips one night because she believed in you. She kept your first business card, the one you made yourself. It's in my bag." Ethan's throat tightened. He felt the weight of the room, the eyes of the crowd, but all he could see was Sophie, small, brave, and unflinchingly honest. He remembered Lila's smile, her quiet encouragement, the way she'd said, "You're gonna do big things, Ethan. Don't forget the little people when you get there." He'd promised her he wouldn't. But he had. His memoir, 300 pages of self-congratulation, hadn't mentioned her once. I didn't know." Ethan stammered, his voice cracking. "I didn't know she was gone." Sophie nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. "She didn't want you to know? She said you were busy changing the world. But I read your book, and it felt wrong. You wrote about all the big moments, but you left out the small ones. The kind ones. Like her." The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. Ethan's assistant hovered nearby, anxious to move things along, but he waved her off. He leaned forward, his eyes searching Sophie's. "Why are you here, Sophie? What do you want me to do?" "I don't want anything," she said simply. "I just wanted you to know. Mommy always said kindness matters. She said it's the little things that make the big things happen. I thought maybe you forgot that." Ethan felt a pang in his chest, a mix of shame and awe. He'd built an empire, but this girl, this poor, kind girl, had just dismantled his carefully curated narrative with a few quiet words. He stood, ignoring the gasps from the crowd, and walked around the table to kneel in front of Sophie. "You're right," he said, his voice raw. "I did forget. I got caught up in all this." He gestured vaguely at the bookstore, the crowd, the empire he'd built. "But your mom, Lila, she was part of my story. A big part. And I'm so sorry I left her out." Sophie's lip quivered, but she smiled, a small, radiant thing that lit up her face. "It's okay," she said. "You can still tell her story. You can tell everyone how kind she was." Ethan nodded, tears stinging his eyes. He reached for her book, opened it to the dedication page, and wrote, "Asterisk to Lila Harper, whose kindness gave me a chance to dream. I'll never forget you again." Asterisk. He handed it back to Sophie, who clutched it to her chest like a treasure. The crowd erupted in applause, some wiping their own tears, others snapping photos that would later flood X with hashtags like #KindnessMatters and #LilaHarper. Ethan stood, pulling Sophie into a gentle hug. "Can I do something for you?" he asked. "Anything." Sophie thought for a moment, then shook her head. "Just keep being kind. That's what Mommy would want." But Ethan couldn't let it end there. Over the next weeks, he rewrote the final chapter of Empire of Ambition, dedicating it to Lila and the unsung heroes who make success possible. He launched the Lila Harper Foundation, funding scholarships for kids like Sophie, who'd been living in foster care since her mother's death. He invited Sophie to the foundation's opening, where she cut the ribbon, her faded coat replaced with a new one, still blue, her favorite color. The story of Sophie and Ethan spread, not just in the USA, but across the globe, a reminder that kindness, however small, can ripple through time. Ethan, forever changed, made a new promise, to never forget the little people again. And Sophie, with her mother's heart, kept reading, dreaming, and believing that the world could be kind, too.